we're going to finish the last component of Chapter 7. It's called the Petty Cash Fund. And as you can tell, I only have 5 slides up here. So this will be short, but it will be very spot on if you pay attention. So just so you understand that petty cash is basically something I keep in the office because I don't want to keep large amounts of money around in the office to pay for little things like postage or office supplies or minor repairs. I'm afraid that somebody will steal it. So I have what we call a petty cash fund. And this is a fixed amount of money kept in the office in a lockbox with documentation. And anytime it needs to be used, I put somebody in charge of it. And my employees will come to them and say, well, I need, $5 for postage, or I need to pay this, or I need to run over to Staples and buy some paper. And so we take the cash out the box and give it to the person. They go down and they come back and they bring the receipt and the change back to the person in charge of the box. And at the end of the month, that same amount of money or that same amount has to be in the box when we actually reconcile the petty cash. But it could be in the form of cash, receipts, or both. So I'm going to put somebody in charge of it. Now this requires 2 journal entries. Okay? Only 2 journal entries, and I'll talk about that. So first, we're going to have one journal entry that is called Establish the Petty Cash, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The second journal entry we called Replenish the Petty Cash. So only 2 journal entries required. So here's what happened. This is what I just talked about. I write a check and I give it. So we establish it, okay? And I write a check to somebody. They go down in my office. They go down to the bank and cash it for cash. They bring the money back, put it in the box. That's the person in charge of it. Basically called the petty cash custodian or somebody I trust. So here's the key. Remember, 2 journal entries, establishing the petty cash and replenishing. But what I want you to know is once I establish it, I never will use the petty cash account again. So here we go. So this is just kind of a little thing. So let's just get started and let's take a look at things. So I set up a petty cash of $500 for August 1st. So here's the journal entry. This is journal entry number 1 to establish the petty cash. So I give George a check for $500 made out to him. He goes down to the bank. He gets cash. He cashes it, brings back the $500, puts it in the box, a locked box in his drawer with a ledger. Okay, so the only time I even touch the petty cash account is when I establish it. I will not touch it again unless I need to change the $500. So remember, 2 journal entries, and here's number 1. This is establishing the petty cash. So during the month, people come to George and say, hey, I need to buy office supplies. He gives them money. They go down and buy stuff at Staples. They come back. They give him the receipt. They bring him the change. Other employees may come and want money for stamps. They go to the post office. They buy stamps. Come back, give him the receipts and the change. And so this goes on for the whole month. And at the end of the month, he's going to reconcile my petty cash. And what he's going to do is going to open the box and he's going to count all the money. Then he's going to add up all the receipts, and they should always equal $500. But if they don't, because people do make mistakes when it comes to counting out money, you remember what account would be used in case they don't. What account will be used if they do not equal $500 in that box? You're right, petty cash account. You guys are spot on here today. So here's what happens. At the end of August, I have receipts totaling $467. So this is journal entry number 2. This is called replenishing the petty cash. So I'm going to credit the cash for $467, which is the total of all my receipts. And then I'm going to debit whatever this was spent on, I'm going to debit here. So 402 was office supplies. And so that would be the $380 and the $22. $35 was store supplies, and miscellaneous expense was $30. So this all equals $467. So that must mean that I have $33 cash still in the box. So now I write George a check for $467. He goes down to the bank, cashes it, brings it back, and now I've got $500 cash in the bank account again. And we're start to set for the next month. So this is the replenishment. If I did not have $33 in there, let's say I had $31 in there, but my receipts equaled $467. So when you add that together, you're going to get $498, which means I'm going to be short $2. If I was under this scenario and I was really short $2 and I only had $31 in there instead of 33, this check would be written for $469 and I would have cash shorter over for $2. So sometimes you might be shorting your petty cash. So this concludes most of Chapter 7 lecture. I covered the major components. If you have questions, feel free to contact me.